This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Hey, today I have to welcome back to the show Mark Wittenberg. How are you today, sir?
Awesome. How are you?
Good. How is Snow Mexico today?
Oh my God. I literally washed my car and it's minus 12 Celsius this morning. It was minus 25 Celsius yesterday, I think.
So you like throwing ice cubes at it? How does that work up there?
It's great. You go through one of these car washes and it has an automatic dryer. So by the time you get out and wherever you got to go, your car's dry. It's great.
You know, we just got a couple days of snow here over our Thanksgiving holiday, and one of my little hobbies is that I actually like to rebuild old things, and I rebuilt an old tractor, and like a garden tractor, but it's pretty beefy, and I got a giant like 4-foot wide snowblower, PTO driven snowblower attachment for it, and I got to try it out for the first time this season, so I was all excited, and my wife's just like shaking her head because she's like, it's a little overkill for the suburbs. And I'm like, yeah, but I just snowblowed like 6 driveways of our neighbors all in like an hour. So it was awesome.
So I'm curious to know how were the neighbors feeling that got the frickin' snow blown on them?
Yeah. They were happy. I like to take care of my neighbors. I think, when it gets into like all these like libertarian kind of people, they're like, oh, I want to just not have government. And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, if you're going to have that, you got to be able to work and support your neighbors. And to me, it's not about talk. You got to go out there and do work. And to me, I live that. Like, to me, my neighbors have helped me. It was really interesting. Like last fall, we put in some sod in our front yard. And like all my neighbors just walked down the street and started helping me put sod in. And sod's a hard thing to do. It's heavy, and so to me, if any way that I can go help my neighbors out the same way, it works out. And so I like that. So I like my neighborhood. My neighbors are pretty cool. And so we all kind of help each other out. But, it's interesting, like, in Salt Lake, some winters, it's like in the valley here where we're like in a valley. And, some winters we don't get any snow at all. It's kind of like Denver weather. Denver's like this too. You might get maybe 2 years in a row where like March it's 65 degrees, but then every 3 years you get like 4 feet of snow. So it's like you got to be prepared for either no snow or like a massive blizzard. So anyways, but we have a big lot and I got a lot of sidewalks, so I was getting sick of, like, my kids were also whining a lot. I was getting sick of actually having to shovel it. So I found this attachment for my tractor, and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I got the attachment because it makes that whole job pretty, like, a lot faster.
Yeah.
So anyways, what's going on with Verge and some of the other projects you've been working on? What's new?
It's just same old, phone call after phone call after phone call. It's a lot of work, man. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot of work to I've got a full-time business to take care of as well. And with these other projects I'm involved in, it's a lot of work for sure. But, we're doing it for the right reasons, right? So you got to fill the holes.
Well, this is one of those things that people don't seem to understand, that even decentralized, quote unquote, community projects, they have a lot of work that needs to be done. And to me, I still liken them to businesses, even though there's not the same command and control structures and legal entities and things like that. You still have to think of them, and at least I do, is like a business. You have to grow it. You still have to do the phone calls. You have to do the relationship building, the business development, and the sales. This is the one part a lot of projects don't do, is the sales part. But, those things, all those jobs still have to be done. If you're going to be trying to get people to use your service, your project, if it's a service, or your crypto as a payment method, you still need to get out there. You still need to do all that work, and it is work. And it's harder as a decentralized project. It's harder as a community project because you don't have the ability to just go tell someone to go do something.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And we talk in the core team about that quite often, I, how I look at it is we're still an $80 million project. So whether people say we're decentralized, we're not a business, Listen, we have the same attributes as a business would have. For an $80 million evaluation, or whatever you want to call it, market cap, $80 million market cap, or 90 million, or whatever it is, we still have to operate in the same way an $80 million business would have to operate. We still have those same, the same attributes. People are still going to call on us the same way. The only difference is we don't throw money at stuff. We can't just go out there and pay thousands of dollars to market in a magazine, and of course we're colorful. Our core team is colorful. So we're all, again, like you said, with Decentralized, we have everybody's opinions involved, right? So everybody's going to have a different opinion. So, us being decentralized and volunteer, we just kind of do our own thing.
And management by committee can be difficult as well.
Yeah,
and I think we've struggled with that, with just getting our project to where it is today.
Yeah.
But we're going to be going to mainnet very, very soon, hopefully in the next week. From the time of this recording, we're really darn close, but the holidays, slowed us down a bit. But I definitely, see that, management by kind of management where you have to get everybody's buy-in, or at least you have to get the majority of the community's buy-in for the big decision making. That's harder because it's a lot more persuasion, it's a lot more politics, and I think that changes the dynamic, especially for someone who has a background as being an entrepreneur, where you're just like, this is my baby, we will do it this way. And so that's we're about to make that leap now, because once we bring the block producers in and go to mainnet, now the way decisions are made is going to be a lot different. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the team copes with that, because the process is going to, in a lot of ways, get less efficient, which is good, because you don't always want everything to be inefficient, or to be too efficient either. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So how many on your team total?
I guess that depends on how you define on the team. If you look at all the contributors that have been here till now, probably about 18 to 20. Regular core contributors, half dozen.
Yeah. So it's quite a bit to manage, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, is that because we're all volunteers, we all have day jobs, we all have family commitments, things of that nature. You don't always get the performance that you would want, So, sometimes people can dive in and they can jump in for, a week or two solid, and just because they had a vacation or something like that. And then you don't hear from them for 2 months because they got busy with other things in life. And I don't begrudge anybody that, right? I mean, that's just part and parcel. But I find because of that, we always have to kind of be in like recruiting mode, because people come in, people fall out, people get bored, people, lose interest, people lose, have other commitments come up. And I think that's with with the decentralized project, it's a little different than if you were a company. Because if you're a company, you're like, oh, well, these people can work 40 hours a week, and if they don't work out, we fire them in a month or two. But you still get that, you get a lot more production out of employees than you do out of volunteers.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just, we have to kind of always keep our eye open for someone else to come to the project, just because we know people will fall out. And this is one thing I've noticed as well, is that people are not patient, right? And I think what ends up happening, a lot of people, say they get excited about the idea of working on a new project, or, bringing a new, crypto or a new thing into the universe. And then they don't realize that, oh, this is actually going to take a year, 2 or 3 years to really get the traction we want. And I think people get bored, to be honest, because it's just there's just a lot of boring work involved with this. And I think, as far as I can see, and even my own self, is that there are times when you're like, why am I doing this? Is it ever going to work? And then you do that self-doubt thing sometimes. Yeah. Like, oh, is this really worth it? Are we going to get mass adoption? Are we actually going to launch, things like that. And we're almost 2 years old. We'll be 2 years old in a month. And I tell the guys it's going to be two, and this is what I've been telling them for 6 months, is expect that it's going to take 2 years after mainnet to
Yeah.
really get traction. I think that's a realistic expectation. If we don't manage to get somewhere 2 years after launch, we're not going to. And when you, and I try to be as realistic and set really good, solid expectations. But I think some of the guys, that's hard. You know, they're like, well, can't we just moon overnight? And, you know, can't, you know, like, no, that's not how it's going to work.
No. Yeah, you've nailed it, man. It's like I'm self-admitted one of the, I don't have any patience. When I try to get stuff done, I try to move through it fairly quick, but you've nailed it. Stuff takes time. Like, you know, I look back and with our project when we partnered with MindGeek, I think it was April of 2018 or something that we partnered with MindGeek, and man, people just ride us on that. It's like these partnerships take time to bloom. Like, you can't communicate with these guys every single day of their lives. You know, they're busy, they're doing their company stuff, they're trying to scale out or bring on more people, whatever they're trying to do. This takes a lot of time. And I think it just shows how immature crypto is right now. When I say immature, I don't mean that as a personality. I mean immature as in small. Like, we're an immature space, and you know, you don't see these larger corporations going out there and making these partnerships announcements and saying, hey, by the way, in 5 months we're going to be partnered with this company, in 5 months we're doing this. They talk about it behind the scenes, and when it happens, and that's when they announce it. So man, I'm with you. It's like, for your project, 2 years after mainnet, it's like maybe it might be a little bit longer than that. Who knows how fast crypto grows, but it takes a lot of patience, man. I don't have patience, but I'm certainly learning it.
I'm really impatient too, and it's really interesting because my wife Christy, who's one of our co-founders, and she does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and she's like, I can't believe you're still involved with this. I go, what do you mean? She's like, you never stick around on one thing that long ever. And I said, I'm actually really excited about this still. And to me, that actually has been surprising to me. But I think it's because I keep, you know, I really tried to set my own mind to be patient on this. And I keep finding you know, I think of it like this. We're building something really, really massive. We're building the Titanic in my mind. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to build the Titanic, you can't expect the Titanic to launch overnight. If it takes only 15, I mean, think of it this way. If it only took 15 minutes to build a crypto and pull all the pieces together and do all that stuff, then everybody would do it, right? And, you know, it's not that easy to do. And there's a lot of barriers to entry. I think this is why you look at that there's, you know, thousands and thousands of tokens and coins out there, right? But you really don't see much traction in a lot of them. And I think part of it is absolutely that people either, you know, don't know how to run it, or people just get bored. And they fall away from it and they stop trying to grow it. And I do believe, like what you were saying about, you know, these partnerships take time. I have a lot of really, really major potential partnerships that we have in the works for Tusk, but I don't talk about them because they're early yet. They're really, really early, but I've already planted those seeds. And I know though some of those seeds will sprout, but what's going to take is we now as a project have to prove ourselves worthy of those partnerships. Yeah. And I think, especially, and this a lot of people don't understand with, you know, with partnerships, right? They're taking a risk on you. Yeah. And so they want to see that you're going to do what you say we're going to do. So, you know, what I've done along the way is, you know, I've been talking and building relationships for a year and a half with some of these players that I know would be a really good fit. It'd be a really good mutual partnership. But we need to prove ourselves, and how we do that is we do and actually do what we say we're going to do. And I think what I've seen out there in business and even with crypto is that most people are full of shit. Yeah. And successful people know that most people are full of shit. Lots of people talk. Lots of people spin their wheels. Most people don't end up producing. And I'm not trying to bag on people. It's just a fact. Most people talk shit. They like the idea of something, but executing is really rare. and
Yeah.
making things happen is rare. And so I've planted the seeds, and I keep those seeds kind of growing and germinating, and keeping those potential partnerships up to date. But we need to prove ourselves. And I think part of that will be getting through in mainnet, and then, seeing how our marketing starts working and seeing how we start growing. And I think once we start growing and we can prove to those other partnership people that we've been talking to, that we are viable and we are a legit, potential partner for them, I think we're going to massively accelerate just with any of them. If any of them land, it'll be huge for us, but we have to prove ourselves. And I think that'll take another 6 to 9 months after mainnet, just to get really to start showing people what we can do as far as the marketing, the business networking and things that we're doing. It's going to take time, but it's going to happen. But I don't hype, and I don't make announcements of announcements, and I don't sit there and try to, hype, oh, I talked to so-and-so, it might be a great partnership, but it's a 2-year out partnership. It's not going to land for 2 years, because we need to be at a certain size before that'll happen. But we're laying all that foundation out. And I think that's the critical piece.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Partnerships are like, it's like a marriage, man. Every marriage goes through a honeymoon stage too. But for me, I can be talking to 10 or 15 different people right now on potentially collaborating with us or partnering with us. That just means that I've reached out to them, and I've opened up a dialogue with them. I've opened up a conversation. You got to move through certain phases. And once you become a partner, I'm a big fan of managing those relationships. So if I create a partnership myself for the team, it's important to me to manage those relationships, every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 days, just say hi to them, stuff like that, and see how they're doing and see what the next goals are for them. See how we can assist them in their next phase. It's not just take a partnership and, oh yeah, we're a partner now and now we're done and we move on to the next partner. It takes a lot of time and effort to not just put the partnership together, but to manage that partnership once it is a partnership. Like I can't, people like, oh, man, I can't stand announcements of announcements. That's one thing that's just like, I ran into so-and-so at Starbucks and we shook a hand and now we're going to partner someday. It's like,
yeah,
it's like you run into a million people in your lifetime. And people are like, Twitter's crazy, everybody's like, when this, when that. And like, I'm not going to talk about the companies I'm talking to now, because it's irrelevant to any kind of conversation until we can shake a hand and do a deal and make sure it's going to fit for them and for us. And to be quite honest with you, fit for them, maybe not fit for us. Because right now in crypto, I look at it like A side, B side. So right now in crypto, we're the B side. When we are doing a partnership or looking at a collaboration with somebody, we're going to be the B side. There's options out there. We just have to make sure it's the right fit for that partner and see if it's going to fit for that partner. So, man, it takes a lot of time to partner build. And again, like I said, I can be talking to 10 or 15 different companies right now. And I probably am talking to 10 or 15 different companies right now, but it takes time to work stuff through. These guys can't just integrate something in 2 days. It doesn't, 2 days, 2 days. It takes time, man. Like you said, it takes a lot of time.
Well, it was interesting. I know last April I talked to a very large point of sale company in the gun world, and it was kind of interesting because they seemed interested at first, and then they kind of ghosted me, and that makes sense because that's going 8 months back, and we were a lot further behind where we are now, of course, in our development cycle. But I wanted to open the dialogue with them because I know that they would be a great partner in the future.
Yeah.
But I also know for them to take a risk on us, again, remember, corporations are really risk adverse, way more risk adverse than, say, a startup company would be. That's why startups are much more nimble typically and a lot more groundbreaking and disruptive, because they can be. They have nothing to lose. But bigger companies have a lot more to lose. And so they want to be very careful what they partner with. And, some of the team, now I didn't even make this public, right? This is just, this was an early guys, this strategically thinking, one of the things that I know is I want to partner with, in a general sense, strategically with our project, partnering with point of sale people that already have customers in the space that we're going into.
Yeah.
And there's about a half dozen of them in the US gun world. So, I said, I want to start opening the dialogue to introduce myself and put us on their horizon. But I don't think but back then, and probably even now for another 6 months to a year out, we're not going to be ready for them. We're not going to be ready. And some of the teams like, well, so have you been following up with that guy? I'm like, well, he kind of ghosted me a little bit. And they're like, are you worried about that? I go, no. I go, why? Because I go, if I were him right now, and it was a C-level executive at this company, I would be trying to figure out how I launch my own cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
That's and because they're and the gun space is really, they're not that cutting edge in a lot of respect. It's actually a very low tech industry right now. And I said, what will happen is they're going to go start figuring it out. And since they're a big company, their learning curve is going to be slow. It'll take them 6 months to figure out that, legally speaking, it doesn't make sense for them to try to do it. And, and because I already know what it takes legally to, drop a cryptocurrency. And I'll say this another way. For a cryptocurrency to be successful, it's kind of got to be neutral.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, I think if you want to be adopted by an industry, right? It's not going to be as easy to adopt it by an industry if one of the dogs in that show is running it. For instance, if your competitor is running the crypto, you probably aren't going to be as likely to want to use that crypto because it's helping your competitor.
Mm-hmm.
But what could make sense is like an independent project, like what we're doing, like a community project, makes a lot more sense because we're not a competitor. We can work with all those guys. But I said, look, if I was that COO of that company, I would be trying to figure out how to launch my own cryptocurrency right now, and I'm going to go down that track before I start, engaging with outside projects. And I know that's what they're doing. And they're also going to find that it doesn't make sense for them to try to launch their own cryptocurrency because the legalities of it and the fact that it's just not going to work as well. You're not going to get the adoption that you would want. You might have an internal project, but it's going to be hard to get other people in the industry outside of that. And it's funny because one of these companies, I've been looking at, they're really not liked very well by a lot of people in the industry either. So that works against them. So working with a project like us makes a lot more sense. But that's going to take another 6 months or 9 months or a year after we launch to not only do and show people that we will say we're going to do X and then we're going to execute on X. And it takes that time. And I think these are those things that a lot of people, especially developer types or people that are not entrepreneurs even, right? There's a lot of people that hold crypto are not entrepreneurs. So they don't understand all these, the ideas that you have to do things in a progression. You have to go through baby steps. You have to grow. And it's just like getting on exchanges too, right? You have to start on crappier, smaller exchanges. That's just the nature of the beast. You have to work your way up. It makes no sense to pay, $50,000 or $100,000 to try to get, a listing fee to get on a bigger exchange when your project isn't big enough to really drive any kind of new volume on that bigger exchange. They'll just delist you. And then you just wasted a lot of money and time and effort. You got to work your way up and grow, and that takes patience. And a lot of people don't have that patience, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's like you said, good point with the exchanges, because we often get that from our community too. Like obviously I'm part of a couple projects, but from the Verge aspect, we're listed on 50, 60 exchanges already. So. But I get the, when the USDT pairing or when the USD pairing or when's Coinbase going to add this and when's Binance going to add more pairings. Listen, at the end of the day, we don't control that. We can harass these exchanges like Coinbase or Binance or CZ. We can harass him on Twitter all we want. Is that going to get us the end result? Definitely not. The more you harass a person, the more they're going to get pushed away. It's consistency. So the way I look at it is we just do what we're doing, do it consistently, and try to do the right thing. If they want to add more pairings for us, that's going to be their business decision, because let's face it, they're a business. So that's going to be their business decision. If they love our community and love our large community and want our large community to help them in some stuff, to push some stuff out in the future and stand by them, then they're going to do that. If they don't see the value in giving us more pairings, hey, that's up to them. We can't control other people's decisions. We can want
No.
what we want, but they're going to do what they want to do. And, and I just tell, my advice to people is just be as kind as possible. And, if you want to be a partner with another exchange or have another exchange add you, just support them and be consistent in how you're addressing them online and how you're talking to them, and have respect for them. People like CZ, that guy, I think I tweeted about it the other day about, where guys like CZ came from. Vancouver, I think he worked in fast food or whatever in Vancouver, BC, and then went off to university, I think in Ontario or something. He's got roots too. He's got a past, and he's going to remember his roots as well. People can hammer him all they want to hammer him, but at the end of the day, you still need to give respect to somebody like him for building what he's built. Hammer him all you want, but 99% of us probably would not be here without Binance or without Coinbase. That's probably pretty close to the fact.
Well, I would say this, when it comes to in exchanges and, as far as, our long-term goal, of course, yeah, who doesn't want to be on Binance? Who doesn't want to be on the big exchanges, right? But it also needs to make sense, for them. And to me, if you have to like bother people and bug people and harass people to get your project listed, to me, maybe there's something lacking in your project, or it's not big enough. And, at some point, I do believe that the whole exchange world and the way projects are evaluated by the general public and exchanges will change. Right now, it really is about who can pay the listing fees for a lot of these exchanges. They don't care about your project. They just, because their business models they want listing fees. And to me, I think eventually, I think that a lot of the BS in crypto and all the fake volumes and all the crappy projects and the failed ICOs, I think the market's going to change. And I think the way projects are evaluated will change. And I think how they're likely going to change is that projects that have real adoption and people and real customers and have real communities and are really growing, those are the projects that are quality, and all the exchanges are eventually going to want them. And so I tell everybody, even in our community, when they come up with these when moon kind of concepts and, and all these comments that we get all the time, is like, look, we don't need to worry about price. We don't need to worry about exchanges. We need to focus on building quality. We need to focus on getting users and retailers. And if we do those things and do it correctly, we will not have a problem getting on any exchange that we want to in time.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree. I don't, I'm not out there telling people to go buy Verge and invest in Verge. That's not what I do. I'm not focused on telling people to invest in Verge. As a currency, we should just concentrate on building what we want our use case and our mission to be. Just constantly do that. And I kind of look at it like a McDonald's kind of a thing. McDonald's started out as a milkshake company. Now look where they grew to. They didn't grow to a McDonald's hamburger joint overnight when they started with milkshakes. It takes a lot of time, but they focused on what they wanted to do. That's what they focused on. As a currency, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2020. But if as us, like even with my other projects, XcelTrip, Paycent, if we just focus and concentrate on what we need to do, it's going to open up people's eyes, and they're going to eventually see it, and we're going to eventually grow. And when I say grow, we're going to grow to more use case, and maybe evaluation will grow too. I'm not too concerned about these people that want to see 10 cents or 20 cents or $5 or $10 tomorrow. It's like, just concentrate. to hammer exchanges on Twitter and say, when are we going to get this? Or it's about time this project gets, Verge gets USD pairing. It takes just as much energy to help out the decentralized project as a volunteer than it would to go on Twitter and ask that question. What's the point of engaging in an antagonistic conversation when you can just turn it to the good and focus on the project instead? That's kind of the way I look at it. And when I'm on Twitter, I try to be on point with my tweets, and I try to give respect where respect is due, you know. And for us in cryptocurrency, we owe everybody else respect at this point.
I agree. So 2020, what do you see happening in crypto in the new year?
What do I see happening, or what would I like to happen? That's a good question.
Why not both?
Oh boy. What would I like to happen? I would like a whole lot of consolidation to happen personally. I am the farthest thing away from a money grabber, and I would absolutely love to see that these money grab projects just go away, just be vaporware, go away. And you know, I feel for the people that, again, maybe invested in them, but again, that's not my problem. But I would like to see it consolidate in a harsh way, and I'd like to see it get really real. What do I think is going to happen? I think we're still 5 years out from being anywhere serious, but I think at the end of 2020 we're going to see a major shift. I think it's going to consolidate heavily in 2020, and I think it's where we've turned a big corner where it's going to be use case focused, and I think 2020 we're going to see some real use case projects get pushed up for sure.
Well, I think where the rubber meets the road is use cases, and I always say customers. Now, a lot of people like to use the word user. I like to think of people as customers because I think that changes the focus a little bit. To me, a user means that you could be an investor. Well, an investor is not someone who necessarily is going to grow your project. And a lot of times it's the opposite, because if you're and to me, since we're also a pure payments crypto, yeah, we want people to spend Tusk. We want people to accept Tusk as money, right? That's our focus. And to me, I still think payments is the killer app. And regardless of people in Bitcoin or what have you that have moved to this store of value nonsense narrative. And to me, I think the Bitcoin community, and I'm not bagging on them, but, you know, and I own Bitcoin, right? I'm a supporter, but I think that a lot of people in the Bitcoin community moved from peer-to-peer digital cash to store of value because Bitcoin failed at being a peer-to-peer cash project. And now people, I'll probably be getting hate emails for this, and that's fine. But the reality is they moved the marketing message. They changed the narrative away from the Satoshi white paper. And I'm not going to get into the conflicts with all the different Bitcoin communities now and the splintering and the other projects that came out of the forks and all that. But I agree with you. I think the killer app is about users. It's about people using your project. So if people are hodling, Tusk or Verge or, Digibyte or any of these other kind of payment projects, to me, that's counter growing the project because you want people to spend it, right? And if you incentivize or encourage people to view it as an investment rather than currency, to me, I actually think you're hindering the growth of your project at that point. Just like staking rewards. I think if you're a payments project and you do staking rewards, you're like nailing your own self to the cross. It doesn't make any sense to me, because these people, if you're getting the interest, on your project, why would you spend it? You're totally incentivizing the wrong behavior when you do that. And people have asked us, are you going to have staking rewards? And I go, absolutely not. Why would I want that? It sounds great if you don't believe in the project, if you don't believe in the mission and the application and the use case. Staking reward sounds great, and I hold a lot of Tusk, but, so I would benefit from staking rewards, but it's going to hinder the growth of our project. And I do believe that in 2020, we too will see a change moving toward actual use cases of customers, not just users. I don't think of investors as users or customers. And a lot of people conflate that. They're like, look how many people are using Bitcoin. I go, they're not using it. They invested in it. They're hodling Bitcoin. They're not spending it. And to me, that's not what you want. You want people to use it and use it commercially and just think of it as another payment method. That's what the ideal should be, at least according to the Satoshi white paper. But they've moved from that. They're not even trying. The thing is, they're not even trying anymore. So I believe that there's a vacuum there. And I think projects like, Verge and Tusk and Digibyte that are community driven, that are focused on the mission and the application, are the ones that will be successful. And I do believe there will be a consolidation. Now, the question is, when will the emperor not have recognized he's not wearing any clothes with so many of these projects, right? I can tell you, I know of at least a couple dozen projects that are in the top 200 or 300. And I know there's a lot more, but I know for a fact, 30, 40 of these projects are either completely dead or complete scams, but they're still traded and listed in the top 100, or top 200 or top 300. And yeah, I'd love to see those go away. Why are you tracking a project that, literally traded at, $21 at its peak is now trading for 8 cents? The people that ran the project are being indicted for fraud, but yet you're still trading and it still has a $6 million market cap. Why are you even tracking that? Why are exchanges still involved with that? I'd like to see that garbage flush out of the system personally, because, it does take away attention from projects that are viable and are legitimate and are growing.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, and I'm not biased either way, whether it's, whether it's Verge or XcelTrip or Paycent, or, whether these projects are involved in that consolidation and they go away, then so be it. But I can't, all we can do is try to work as hard as possible, focus as much as possible, to try to gain acceptance for sure. But I'm with you. Out of the top 100 or top 200, there's got to be 30 or 40 that are just going to be gone. And I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. But again, these volunteer decentralized projects that are non-ICO or whatever, they literally can't go away. There's going to be a turnstile, right? Like there's going to be volunteers always coming in and volunteers always going out, volunteers coming in, volunteers. We literally can't go away. Can we flatline? Absolutely. Can you flatline for 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever? Absolutely. But you literally won't go away, right?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to how much inertia you have. And I think what will end up happening is a lot of these non-ICO, or I'm sorry, a lot of what's happening with these ICO projects is that, a lot of these projects were run by people who had never even run a business before. And then they got literally stupid raises through their ICOs, which a lot of them are, which in the United States, pretty much every ICO was illegal.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is, I saw in some projects where they literally hired 100, 150 people with their ICO money with no revenue in sight. And you're like, what are they doing with 100 and 150 developers? I mean, that's insane to me. So they created all this amazing overhead. Let's look at it in the business, right? They just went nuts.
Yeah.
And then when the market tanked, they didn't cash out the ICO money, and their Ethereum and Bitcoin that they received, dropped down 90% from its ICO high. And so they basically just went and burned through all the money. And so a lot of these projects, they burned through, they fizzled out. They ran out of money. And I think, projects like Tusk, where we have no overhead, we have no debt, we have no full-time employees, we don't have any employees. And so we're not chasing a burn rate. And I think Verge and a lot of these other Digibyte and stuff, we're not chasing burn rates. We're not running from going out of business and running out of cash. It's not even part of the thing. We're self-funded through the network. Our network, pays for itself, so it's sustainable. And I think that's part of the problem is that, and you can go look at a lot of those, especially the ICO tokens, which are some of the worst. Go look at their socials. Go to the top 200 or 300, and I do this every couple of weeks. I'll go through and just pick a couple projects, and I'll go look at their websites. I'll go look at when they last updated. I'll look at their socials, and they haven't updated in 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't updated your socials in 8 months, you're probably dead. Right.
Yeah.
And to me, I think coin market cap or maybe the exchanges or something, there needs to be something done about that in my mind, that there's no development on the project. They probably, maybe they didn't produce what they said they would produce, and their tokens were just a method of raising money. And so if there's not going to be, a project built off that, token, why are they still trading the tokens?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that people lost money. There was a lot of bad malinvestments, and people fell for it. And that's why the SEC was created in the first place in 1933 and 1934.
Yeah.
But I think, I think there's going to be some consolidation. There's got to be. These projects are crap. I think the problem is that the exchanges don't want to let it go. Because these exchanges, most of their faked volume is on these crap projects that, they're just churning and burning tokens to pump up their volumes themselves. And if they had to delist all the dead projects, they wouldn't really have much left.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely fair point for sure. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that it's frustrating as a project is that I would rather as a project be listed on more Western exchanges that have third-party validated, honest books and honest volume. Because I don't want to be associated with these, Asian exchanges that have fake volume and that are doing dodgy stuff and they're ethically challenged. But we're also stuck as a project is that to get on, like the American exchanges are like some of the top, but they're also the pickiest, right? They too don't want to take a risk on brand new projects. So we're kind of stuck in this catch-22 that you have to kind of deal with some of the crappier exchanges to get some volume to prove yourself worthy enough to be on the more legitimate exchanges. And I don't like that at all. I wish we don't have to go through that process, but that's kind of the way the process is in crypto. And I wish, people that are not working in a project, they don't understand all the nonsense we have to kind of deal with. And there's a high risk as a project of getting ripped off by the exchanges that, have crazy listing fees, but then want, 2% of your supply, and then they don't bring anything to the table themselves. Yet they're a highly ranked exchange, and you have to be on a highly ranked exchange to get to the next level exchange and that growth process. I don't know. It's nuts to me. It's just, I wish that we could just be, I would rather just be on 2 or 3, really legitimate and well-respected exchanges and not worry about it. But that's just not so easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, even the Western exchanges for older projects are not as easy either. It's, for Verge, what are we, 5 years old? We're a 5-year-old project, and there's some exchanges in the Western exchanges that we're still not on, or we don't have USD pairings. And again, so be it. I can't, I don't control their model. Their model is their model, and that's in their brain, what they want to do. So
it'll have to change. Eventually, they're going to have to delist, illegal securities if they want to deal with Americans, because the U.S. government's going to force that. So I think that's going to be a big driver in 2020 of that consolidation. Is that if if you want access to American markets and American customers, you're going to have to delist privacy coins, and you're going to have to delist any of these illegal securities. And I think that'll be a good thing, to be honest. And that now opens the door for more legitimate projects like ours, where we're not an illegal security. We're not an ICO project. We don't have that stain and stigma around us. So, and I think the same thing with Verge. I think there'll be openings for us and legitimately well-run projects in 2020. So I'm excited about that. That's one of the things that gets me excited. I'm motivated, doing the little happy gopher dance.
Yeah, me too. And we get into the privacy coins getting delisted, and people, it's a question that's come up with us too, because we're looked at as a privacy coin, but we're privacy by choice. So we're not full on privacy. So that's kind of we're sitting in a niche kind of an area, you know, because we're privacy by choice. And we are definitely not a security. So, you know, it's always nice talking to you, Rob, because it's like, maybe some of these projects are going to listen to us or look at us and see through and go, you know what, these guys are serious. This Rob guy, this Mark guy, these projects that these guys are involved in, they're serious people. We're not just some fly-by-night guys that are going to pop up and go away tomorrow kind of a thing. And we need more of this. You know, we need some of these bigger projects, these bigger exchanges to kind of look through and go, does that guy sound genuine? Is he genuine? Is he well-spoken? Does he come off well? Is he in business? Yeah, I kind of want to do business with that guy. You know, do business with the people that are genuine, and do business with the people that are going to help you. Don't do business with just pure money. Some of these exchanges, they have a lot of money already. They don't. I don't think. I don't know. Yeah, with the securities thing, I think you're right. In 2020, we're gonna, with the securities coming down, we're gonna see a lot of these projects just go away. It's unfortunate, but it has to happen.
Agreed. So besides, you know, Verge, and we talked a lot about Verge the last time you're on, tell me a little bit about Paycent and XcelTrip and some of these other projects you're working on.
So XcelTrip, I mean, I just sit as an advisor, so I'm involved. I'm a big fan of communication, so I like to communicate to the COs and the CEOs and the COs and the CM whatever O's, and as much as I can. But so XcelTrip is it's a decentralized travel platform, right? So I think you can book over 1 million hotels, 400 airlines with it now, so you can pay in crypto. So for me, that's going to be an important project moving forward, and it certainly has its certainly its spot in crypto for sure. When companies like XcelTrip tie into some of these other bigger companies and pull their information, and you can use their platform to pay in crypto, maybe you're going to Expedia or Priceline or whatever, but if they're taking that information on those hotels and flights, putting it into their platform, and you can pay in crypto and get a reward or cash back or whatever you're going to do to travel. I honestly don't know why more crypto conventions and more crypto traveling people don't use XcelTrip. It's busy. It's a busy website. They're a really busy business. Hob, the CEO and founder, that guy travels like nonstop. I can't even, like, every time I talk to the guy, he's in a different spot. Like, I should just put out a map and just pin where he's going. It's crazy how much that guy travels. But I mean, it's a busy website, but websites like that are going to get busier and busier and busier. And I really think that these conventions and these conferences and these meetups and stuff like that, they really need to take advantage of websites like XcelTrip, where you can book and get cash back. I mean, man, you book and pay with crypto and you're getting some cash back in crypto. So, and they're not gouging. They're not like some of these other travel platforms that raise the price 20% to say you're saving 20%. It's not like that. It's the real deal. It's very competitive pricing. Paycent, on the other hand, of course, Paycent is a bridge between fiat and crypto. So they've got debit cards. And as far as I know, right now, they're the only worldwide debit card solution, bridging between fiat and crypto. So you put your crypto on your app, and then you move it over to your debit card into what they call SIPS, SIPS, which is equivalent to $1. And then you just go spend your debit card. They're the only worldwide solution right now, as far as I know, in the space.
Are they in the US too?
Absolutely. Yep, 100%. They have over 100,000 cards delivered. That's huge. 100,000 cards. That's a pretty big market share. It's a well-ran company. It is absolutely a well-ran company. Whatever people are going to say about this debit card, that debit card, maybe I'm biased because I'm an advisor for them.
Maybe.
But I'm really not like that as a person. I'm not stepping in as an advisor role to a company that I think is vaporware. It's not who I am as a person. If I'm going to back something 100% with my name means a lot to me. So I'm going to make sure that the company's legit. And I communicate with these guys every day. So I'm following them, and man, these guys are legit companies. Paycent and XcelTrip are straight up legit companies. I mean,
Very.
straight like, Hob for XcelTrip, he was an early adopter. So you go to his Facebook. I think the guy's got like 300,000 followers or something like that. The guy was involved in early in a lot of projects. So these guys and Paycent, Samita, they know how to build and scale companies, and they know exactly what to focus on, and they know exactly what they need to do. So totally legit.
Well, to me, those are use cases, and that's, getting crypto and getting on ramps and off ramps and people using crypto for spending. That to me, again, goes back to what's the killer app. And those are the types of things that, we need to see out there. And, maybe you can connect me with them. I'd love to talk and learn
Yep.
more about those individual projects as well.
Yeah, 100%.
But we're getting to the point where we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
So, Mark, where can people find out about all the things you're working on?
VergeCurrency.com, XcelTrip.com, Paycent, I think.com. But Paycent's got an app, XcelTrip, XcelTrip.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Verge Canada. And let's have some fun out there.
Absolutely. Once again, I really enjoyed our conversation, and if you haven't already, folks, make sure you hit that subscribe button on iTunes, or follow us on Twitter, Rob McNealy, or go to YouTube. We're everywhere. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you later.
Thanks, Rob.